Good morning, boys and girls. It's Thursday, September 3rd. We are going to start our reading lesson. So today in reading, you will need your journal and pencil and crayons. So we've been talking about read to self and 3 ways to read a book. So when you read to self, like I should know this by now, but we'll talk about it for a while until it's like really, really good inside your brain. When you read to self, you always get started right away. You get your books, you get your spot, and you sit down and you get started. And you read the whole time. You're not looking at the ceiling, you're not looking at the wall, you're not looking at somebody else, you're not looking at your dog or your cat or anything like that. At school, you're not looking at, the math cubbies or whatever. You're looking at your book the whole time, and you stay in one spot. Once you pick your spot, you stay in your spot until you're done with read to self. And it's quiet. It's kind of like quiet time. You try your best to read inside your mind with your eyes, looking at the pictures and the words with your eyes. And that also brings me to 3 ways to read a book. We've been talking about it. If you can't read the words in the book, that's okay, and you know it, because you can also read a book by the pictures. There's 3 ways to read a book. Read the pictures, read the words, and retell the story. And if you've read the story, then you can retell the story to yourself inside with your eyes as you turn the pages. Okay? 3 ways to read a book. Read to self. I want everybody, when you're done with this video, to have your mom, dad, adult, whomever's with you, to time you practicing read to self for 1 minute. And next week we're going to do 2 minutes, so they can set a timer on their phone or their watch, and you get a book, maybe 2 books. You can use the readers we've done, the Chester and the Are We in School? Or At School sorry. You can use those. You can use any of the books you have at home, magazines, whatever, as long as it's something that you can open and read. You can even read on your tablet if you have the Kindle app or you're using Get Epic or anything like that. As long as you are reading to yourself, sitting still quietly, you can do it for at least 1 minute. Because today I'm going to talk to you about read to someone. And you're going to have to practice with somebody at home right now. But when you read to someone, you sit eek. And I'm going to show you in a minute what eek means. And you get started right away. Use a soft voice. So when you're reading to someone, you don't really have to whisper, but you do have to do it in a quiet voice so that other friends that are doing read to self, you're not disrupting them and they're not hearing what you're saying. So when you do a soft voice, a voice like this, you don't read to self like this. Not that voice, no. You read the whole time. You're not talking about anything else. You're not talking about your favorite TV show or your favorite character or your favorite toy. You're reading the book. And remember, if you can't read the words, you can read the pictures to each other. You take turns. And you stay in one spot. So once you pick your spot, you stay there. And read to someone is a lot like read to self, except you can use a soft voice and you're sitting eek. and you take turns because you have a partner. So when we're sitting eek, and you have to practice sitting maybe with a brother or sister or a cousin or mom or dad or somebody, but you're going to have to practice with someone at home. You sit elbow to elbow, knee to knee. That's eek. So you sit next to each other, crisscross if you can, with your knees touching and your elbows touching, and then you're sharing the book. You each are holding the book and you're taking turns. And that is eek. Elbow to elbow, knee to knee. So you'll probably need to practice it. You can pause the video now and go practice how to sit eek. Elbow to elbow, knee to knee. And we're learning these read to someone's and read to self and all that, because when we do get to come back to school, we're going to have rotations, and those are going to be some of our rotations. So when you read to someone, it's a I read, you read, kind of like when I say, you say, when we echo. So it's a I read, you read. So you'll read a little bit on the page, or you'll tell what that picture is doing, and then it'll be your friend's turn on the next page. And you'll take turns like that. And you're reading one book together. And then you talk about, when you're done with the book, what you've been reading, so that you guys make sure that you were both reading and you both were knowing what was going on in the book. You're both understanding. Okay, well, we're going to keep going over this. I'm just going to introduce it for a couple days. We'll talk about it for a couple days, and then next week you can practice that too when you practice read to self. But if you want to practice sitting eek to eek, go ahead and do that. Now, for our read aloud today, we're going to read Chrysanthemum. It's all about a girl and her name. And then when we're done, you're going to need your journal, because you're going to do an activity in your journal with your name. So, Chrysanthemum, and then tomorrow we're going to read Chrysanthemum again, and we're going to talk about the characters and the key details and the beginning, middle, end. But today we're just going to listen to the story, and then we're going to do something fun with our names. Okay, Chrysanthemum. And the author and the illustrator is Kevin Hincks, and he writes a lot of great children's books. So he did all the work. As the author, he wrote the words that became the story, and as the illustrator, he drew the pictures in this book. So let's get started with Chrysanthemum. The day she was born was the happiest day in her parents' lives. She's perfect, said her mother. Absolutely, said her father. And she was. She was absolutely perfect. Her name must be everything she is, said her mother. Her name must be absolutely perfect, said her father, and it was. Chrysanthemum. Her parents named her Chrysanthemum. Chrysanthemum grew and grew and grew, and when she was old enough to appreciate it, Chrysanthemum loved her name. She loved the way it sounded when her mother woke her up. She loved the way it sounded when her father called her for dinner. She loved the way it sounded when she whispered it to herself in the mirror. Chrysanthemum, chrysanthemum, chrysanthemum. She loved the way her name looked when it was written with ink on an envelope. She loved the way it looked when it was written with icing on her birthday cake. And she loved the way it looked when she wrote it herself with her fat orange crayon. Chrysanthemum, chrysanthemum, chrysanthemum. Chrysanthemum thought her name was absolutely perfect, and then she started school. On the first day, Chrysanthemum wore her sunniest dress and her brightest smile, and she ran all the way. Hooray, said Chrysanthemum, school! But when Mrs. Chud took roll call, everyone giggled upon hearing Chrysanthemum's name. It's so long, said Joe. It scarcely fits on your name tag, said Rita. Scarcely means hardly, barely, almost not at all. I'm named after my grandmother, said Victoria. You're named after a flower. Chrysanthemum wilted. She was sad. She did not think her name was absolutely perfect. She thought it was absolutely dreadful. The rest of the day was not much better. During nap time, Victoria raised her hand and informed Mrs. Chud that Chrysanthemum's name was spelled with 13 letters. That's exactly half as many letters as there are in the entire alphabet, Victoria said. Thank you for sharing that with us, Victoria, said Mrs. Chud. Now, put your head down. If I had a name like yours, I'd change it, Victoria said, as the students lined up to go home. I wish I could, thought Chrysanthemum miserably. Welcome home, welcome home. School is no place for me, said Chrysanthemum. My name is too long. It scarcely fits on my name tag, and I'm named after a flower. Oh, pish, said her mother. Your name is beautiful, and precious, and priceless, and fascinating, and winsome, said her father. It's everything you are, said her mother. Absolutely perfect, said her father. Chrysanthemum felt much better after her favorite dinner, macaroni and cheese with ketchup, and an evening filled with hugs and kisses and parcheesi. That night, Chrysanthemum dreamed that her name was Jane, and it was an extremely pleasant dream. The next morning, Chrysanthemum wore her most comfortable jumper. She walked to school as slowly as she could. She dragged her feet in the dirt. Chrysanthemum, 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 she wrote. She even looks like a flower, said Victoria, as Chrysanthemum entered the playground. Let's pick her, said Rita. Let's smell her, said Joe. Chrysanthemum wilted. She was sad. She did not think her name was absolutely perfect. She thought it was absolutely dreadful. Those girls are so mean. It's not nice to make fun of our friends, is it? They're not being kind, are they? And that's one of our rules and expectations. That's right. The rest of the day was not much better. During nap time, Victoria raised her hand and said, A chrysanthemum is a flower. It lives in a garden with worms and other dirty things. Thank you for sharing that with us, Victoria, said Mrs. Chudd. Now, put your head down. I just cannot believe your name, Victoria said as the students lined up to go home. Neither can I, thought Chrysanthemum miserably. Welcome home, welcome home. School is no place for me, said Chrysanthemum. They said I looked like a flower. They pretended to pick me and smell me. Oh, pish, said her mother. They're just jealous. And envious and begrudging and discontented and jaundiced, said her father. Who wouldn't be jealous of a name like yours, said her mother. After all, it's absolutely perfect, said her father. Chrysanthemum felt a trifle better after her favorite dessert, chocolate cake. And another evening filled with hugs and kisses and parcheesi. Parcheesi is a game. A board game. That night, Chrysanthemum dreamed that she really was a chrysanthemum. She sprouted leaves and petals. Victoria picked her and plucked the leaves and petals one by one until there was nothing left but a scrawny stem. It was the worst nightmare. Chrysanthemum wore her outfit with 7 pockets the next morning. She loaded the pockets with her most prized possessions and good luck charms. Chrysanthemum took the longest way to school possible. She stopped and stared at each and every flower. Chrysanthemum, 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 they all seemed to say. The next morning, the students were introduced to Mrs. Twinkle, the music teacher. Her voice was something out of a dream, as was everything else about her. The students were speechless. They thought Mrs. Twinkle was an indescribable wonder. They went out of their way to make a nice impression. Mrs. Twinkle led the students in scales. Then she assigned roles for the class musical. Victoria was chosen as the dainty fairy queen. Rita was chosen as a spiffy butterfly princess. Joe was chosen as the all-important pixie messenger, and Chrysanthemum was chosen as a daisy. Chrysanthemum's a daisy. Chrysanthemum's a daisy, Joe, Rita, and Victoria chanted, thinking it was funny. Chrysanthemum wilted. She was sad. She did not think her name was absolutely perfect. She thought it was absolutely dreadful. "What's so funny?" asked Mrs. Twinkle. "Chrysanthemum," was the answer. "Her name is so long," said Joe. "It scarcely fits on her name tag," said Rita. "I'm named after my grandmother," said Victoria. "She's named after a flower." "My name is long, too," said Mrs. Twinkle. "It is?" said Joe. "My name would scarcely fit on a name tag," said Mrs. Twinkle. "It would?" "And," said Mrs. Twinkle, "I'm named after a flower, too." "You are?" said Victoria. "Yes," said Mrs. Twinkle. "My name is Delphinium Twinkle, and if my baby is a girl, I'm considering Chrysanthemum as a name. I think it's absolutely perfect." Chrysanthemum could scarcely believe her ears. She blushed, she beamed, she bloomed. Chrysanthemum, chrysanthemum, chrysanthemum. Joe and Rita and Victoria looked at Chrysanthemum longingly. "Call me Marigold," said Joe. "I'm Carnation," said Rita. "My name is Lily of the Valley," said Victoria. Chrysanthemum did not think her name was absolutely perfect. She knew it. That's the end. So, we know that Chrysanthemum loved her name, and then she got made fun of it by some mean girls who were not kind. Then she hated her name. And we also know, because Victoria pointed it out in the book, that her name has 13 letters. So this is what you're going to do. And tomorrow I'm going to have a class graph with everyone's names on it and how many letters they are. You're going to open up your journal to the next empty page. And what I want you to do is, in the box where you draw, is I want you to write your name. You can write it kind of big if you want. And then I want you to decorate your name, or make your name, you know, have fire coming out of it, or make your name have flowers around it, or whatever you like. It's your name. And I want you to decorate it and have fun with your name. Make your name look neat. However, whatever makes you happy. And then I want you to count letters in your name. And I want you to write my name has, and you're going to draw a blank line, and then you're going to write the word letters. So just like this. And if your mom and dad need to pause it so that they can help you write this down, or you can copy it on your own, I'd rather you copy it first. But then you're going to count letters in your name, and you're going to say, my name. You know, we should be able to read this word, N-A-M-E. We've seen it a lot. My name has, and put a blank here, letters. Put your black dot, your period, to end your sentence. Make sure you have a capital letter to start your sentence. And then you're going to write the number of letters in your name. If your name has 5, write the number 5. If your name has 10 letters, write 10. If it has 4, write the number 4. Count the letters in your name and write the number of letters. Okay? Then have fun decorating your name. And we'll read Chrysanthemum again tomorrow. Talk about read to self and read to someone tomorrow. And we will talk about some of the characters and the main idea and the key events and key details and all that fun stuff. We'll talk about the story tomorrow. Have a great afternoon, and I will see you guys later.